Hello everyone, it's your friend Shadow Walker the End, and I am here finally going and bringing out my next part. Sorry that it took me so long, I just had to go and deal with some things, and it took me a little bit longer to go and get this out. So, that's where we left off. You were trying to go and figure out a plan in order to go and grab Jekyll, and you came up with three options, you got some equipment now, and now you're going to go and finally grab Jekyll. So, here's what you decided to do. You decided to get a type of grenade launcher that's going to shoot stun grenades. Looking at it, it's pretty standard. It's got a revolver type mechanism to it, so you can fire off 6 shots. You load up all 6 shots, you go to the place, and you start setting up traps in the alleyways. You keep your scout drone directly on the window of Jekyll's room, but it doesn't seem like he's opening his curtain. Not sure why, but it's better for you this way, so you just decide to continue setting up. You set traps in the 2 alleyways that he could escape from, but you're not able to go and set traps around the public area that he's most likely to escape from. You're also probably not going to be able to go and shoot anything from there because that could cause a mass panic and hinder your ability to work. So you stand right in one of the alleyways, the alleyways closest to the public route. From this point, you can see Jekyll's room. You take a deep breath. This isn't going to be easy. And honestly, Jekyll could very well come after you instead of going into the public area and try to kill you right here. You take a deep breath and you start thinking. What do you know about Jekyll? Well, Jekyll is physically enhanced. He is faster than a normal human. You also know that he's stronger than a normal human, and he's very capable of going and using his animal abilities and instincts in order to go and avoid things. You immediately start to realize that maybe this won't work out very well, but you don't really have another option. This is the best thing that you can go and do. Aiming your grenade launcher, you start to make your plan of attack. You're going to shoot one of your rounds straight into his room. That's going to go and scare him out. But now you have to go and think of what happens when he starts running out, if he starts running out. Looking around, you realize that he doesn't have an escape route to the alleyway. And if he does go there, then you kind of automatically win. So you look towards the left and you look towards the public area. So you're going to fire a grenade into his window, but then you're going to actually go and fire at the public area, the space between the hotel and the public area, in order to go and prevent Jekyll from escaping. You then go and start thinking about, well, what happens when Jekyll comes after you? And here's your idea. Crazy as it may sound. You decide that the only thing to go and do is to use the trap that's right behind you. You set up this stun trap in order to block the alleyway that you're currently covering, the alleyway that you're going to fire from. But you kind of realize that if it comes down to it, that's your plan B, to go and use the trap that you set up as a type of way of capturing Jekyll should he head after you. After kind of getting this in your mind, taking a deep breath, kind of going and looking at the worst case scenario, you finally decide it's time. You aim the grenade launcher, and before you fire, you remember that Bernhardt actually gave you one last thing before he left, and it was an aiming system. That's pretty useful, so it can go and calculate where the stun grenade is going to land, and you see a little line projected from your computer all the way into Jekyll's window. You get it just right, and you fire. The stun grenade flies through the air, and for you it almost feels like it's in slow motion at this point, because you know that right now it's about to be a bloodbath if you don't get this right. You automatically start aiming at the public area. You aim to prevent him from getting there, to make a wall of electricity there. And then you hear breaking glass. As you look to your right, you realize that Jekyll had heard the sound of your grenade firing into the air, and he sprints. He is not getting hit by that grenade. He refuses to. The grenade flies into the room as expected, with minimal count of error, and goes off in the room, but Jekyll has already left. He's heard you, and he's running. And as you expected, he ran towards the public area. You fire another grenade, and you create a wall of electricity preventing him from heading into the public street. He automatically turns towards you and starts charging. His back's at a corner, he can't go any other way, he can't go back, and he could either be heading towards the alleyway or he could be heading towards you, and he's decided to go after you and finish you off once and for all. And as he's charging at you, you see his sharp fangs and just all these claws, and he looks ravenous at this point. You almost feel like he's not even human anymore. You fire 2 more shots at him, trying to go and make sure that you can go and stun grenade him, or try to just do something. And he's getting closer and closer, and you realize the stun grenades are not going to hit. He has the reaction speed in order to go and dodge these things. So you jump back, and Jekyll is rushing at you. And just as you planned, he triggers the trap, your plan B here. Now, he was actually completely surprised. He gives you a look of shock and confusion as the clicking sound of the tripwire activates. He doesn't understand what's going on. And then a stun grenade falls from the sky right to his head level, and his eyes widen in realization as you are sprinting away from this stun grenade. And a flash of light, and he is on the floor. But you're not exactly sure if he's actually down for the count. He could get up. He has a physical enhancement. You're not sure how much damage he can take. So you approach carefully, and you've aimed your grenade launcher at him, trying to go and make sure that you have him in your sights at all times. And no, it just seems like he is down for the count. You manage to capture him right there, and it's kind of anticlimactic how fast the fight actually went. So you start to go and bring him back, and now you start to realize, where do I take him after I've got him? So you contact Bernhardt in order to kind of go and get some info on where you're supposed to take Jekyll now that you've captured him. You explain Bernhardt the situation. Bernhardt kind of goes and gives you congratulations on your first investigation. Thank God you didn't die. And he goes and tells you the bad news. Investigators have to go and hold on to the target until the containment unit arrives, which means that you are going to have to hold him for 24 hours. Going over to your apartment in your hotel, you tie Jekyll up really well, and with everything that you possibly can. You get Bernhardt's entire lowdown on what you need in order to make sure that he doesn't escape. I mean, you're going full distance, steel wire to go and tie him to a chair, making sure the chair is made out of metal and all sorts of things. But the fact of the matter is that you have tied up Jekyll. You have also blindfolded Jekyll to make sure he can't see anything. You don't know exactly how he hacks, but you assume that it's through his ocular computer, which goes and means that, well, hopefully, means that he has to go and see the target in order to go and hack it. So you're trying everything that you can. You even bind his mouth because it's like, those teeth, you aren't dealing with it. So he is bound. But now you gotta go and figure out how you're gonna go and hold on to him for 24 hours. Because you're not even sure that this is gonna hold, honestly. He's shown some pretty brutal strength. So you sit down, and eventually Jekyll wakes up. You are around, somewhere between 3 to 5 hours, maybe a little bit over 4 hours into the wait for the containment unit. He's woken up. He starts to freak out. You basically go and tell him, chill out. You express to him this. You go and tell him, you need to go and calm down. You're in custody. He kind of relaxes for a second. You see, he realizes what kind of situation he's in. And then he automatically kind of starts twitching around, going and seeming to trying to figure out how you bound him. Is there any weaknesses? And you're pretty sure that that's exactly what he's checking for, because he's already testing the wire that's around him. At this point, you're trying to go and figure out what you're going to do. As I said, it's like you have to wait another at this point, 20 hours, basically, in order to go and do anything. And so, what are you going to do? Well, you find that you have a few options. The first option is pretty simple. You're going to booby trap the chair that he's on so that if he does break free, then some sort of trap's going to go and befall on Jekyll and make sure that he never gets up again. Your second option is basically to go and say, why don't I just barricade him in the room? Make it so that I do defensive on defensive. I'll make this room as sturdy as possible so that Jekyll can't escape. Even if he escapes the chair, he's not going to escape the room. And your third idea is something that you just kind of came up with on the fly, and you decided, what if I did something along the lines of locking off this floor and turning this floor into a trap for Jekyll, into a prison cell for Jekyll? You did have the money in order to go and do this. You didn't use that much when you went and bought all your artillery, but if you did go and try something like this, then it would be a one-time thing. You would have to go and set up traps all over the whole floor and make sure that Jekyll cannot escape this floor. You would be turning the floor into a prison cell. And you would have to go and get the materials to do so, which might be leaving Jekyll alone for maybe a few hours, which you're not exactly comfortable with at this point. So what are you going to do? You sit there and you think. And this is where I'm going to leave you off, viewers. What are you going to do? Are you going to barricade him into the room with the supplies that you have? Are you going to booby trap the room so that if he goes and actually escapes, then he'll go and be stunned again or meet his demise? Or are you going to lock down the entire floor in order to make sure that Jekyll does not escape? Understand, though, each of these has their consequences. Consequences that you know all too well. If you were to go and fall the entire room with stun grenades, you know for a fact that if Jekyll actually managed to escape and you were in the room, then that would mean that you would be shocked too. On top of that, it would end up being pretty bad if you ended up going and killing Jekyll. Especially since he has an experimental serum in him, which scientists most likely want back. If you barricade him into the room, there's a chance that he could go and break out. And if you barricade the entirety of the floor, then you kind of lost all your funding, and if Jekyll escapes, then that's it. Now you might be wondering, why can't you just barricade the room and trap the room at the same time? And you thought about that. But the problem goes and ends up being is that if you were to go and do that, well, you realize that the barricades wouldn't keep up. The shock grenade actually does a lot more damage than you thought. And looking at it, if you were to make reinforcements, then you would probably go and dent or maybe even break some of your reinforcements should you use a massive amount of stun grenades, or even a little bit of stun grenades at all. And Jekyll could go and escape from... If Jekyll could go and survive the stun grenades, then he would definitely escape from the reinforcement. It's up to you, viewers. You decide.